with Bishop Dale C. Bronner.
Decisions. About 86,000, it is said, that bombard your mind daily of decisions, whether I'm going to turn right or turn left. But every day, our minds are bombarded with decisions. I mean, from the time that we wake up in the morning, do I get up now or do I press the snooze button? Do I call in sick or do I go to work? Should I eat breakfast or should I skip it? Should I get gas now or should I get it later? Should I wear this or should I wear that? Do I iron this or just go on the way it is? You know, I mean, what should I have for lunch? Should I hang in there in my marriage or should I leave? Should I kill them or should I let them live? I mean, decisions. Make a note of this, that all decisions have consequences. All decisions have consequences. Now, here's a word of wisdom to you. You have the right to make the choice, but you cannot choose the consequences. You have the right to make the choice, but you cannot choose the consequences. You cannot choose the consequences. May I give you another word of wisdom? I just feel wisdom on the inside today. Can I give you another word of wisdom? You win some and you learn some. You win some and you learn some. There are no real failures. I mean, if you lose, you just learned a lesson, didn't you? You just learned what doesn't work, didn't you? You just learned who not to be with, didn't you? You win some and you learn some. You win some and you learn some. So even if it were a mistake, even if it were an accident, you learn something. You learn something. You win some and you learn some. And here, Lot, and of course his relative, you know, he's a relative of Abraham, they basically had three decisions that they could make as it related to Sodom and Gomorrah and God's judgment there. Three decisions. Now let me tell you, I was so impacted when several years ago I went to Jordan. Sodom and Gomorrah is located in Jordan. So I went to Jordan because I wanted to see where Sodom and Gomorrah were. And to my amazement, when I got there and I stepped off of the bus after I'd flown into another place, into Jordan, I stepped off of the bus, and as far as my eye could see, to this day, brimstone is still on the ground where it fell and destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. I got off the bus and got some brimstone and put it in my pocket and brought it back here to the United States. Just as a reminder to me. That helped me to make some decisions. Every now and then I'd look at that brimstone in my study. I just look at the brimstone. And I said, God, you are real. I got it from Jordan. I got it from Sodom and Gomorrah. I picked it up off the ground and put it in my pocket and brought brimstone back. And it reminded me of three choices that we always have. Number one, lead. Number two, follow. Or number three, get out of the way. You lead, you follow, or you get out of the way. Lead, follow, or get out of the way. Now, when I said lead, then that means that you've got to combat something in the society. You're going to combat something in the society. That is, if you're going to lead, you're going to take the initiative to try to get people saved. You combat or you convert. You all know that I love alliterations. You combat or you convert. That's what leading is about. You either combat the evil in a city or you try to convert the people. That's leadership that does that. When you follow, you conform. Following is conforming. Instead of fighting it, you just blend in. You just assimilate. You just become just like they are. So you have the option, whether I'm going to lead, I'm going to combat this thing, I'm going to convert this society, convert the people here, or whether I'm going to follow, whether I'm going to conform, or if I get out of the way, that is to convey away. There was one time that Jesus conveyed himself away in the multitude. He conveyed away. And so let me say it to you this way. As with Lot and Abraham, they had three choices as it related to Sodom and Gomorrah. Let me say it to you this way. Choice number one is to change your environment. change your environment. That's what I call leading. Change your environment, where you convert people in the environment. This is what Abraham was trying desperately to do. Abraham, before he did anything, he's trying to change the environment. He wasn't trying to get out. He says, listen, I've got folks there. And he appeared before the Lord and he said, Lord, if I find 50 righteous people in the city, will you spare the city? And God said, yeah, sure, of course I will. And then he came back, you know the story. He said, will you spare it for 45? Of course. And he went out. Sometimes, when you're trying to sell stuff, you discover it's not as easy to sell 40 people as you think. 45, 50 folks. When he said, wait a minute, Lord, what about 40? What about 30? And he found that it wasn't as easy as it looked, as it rarely is. And he said, what about 20? And then he said, wait, Lord, please don't get mad with me. But he's interceding. He's interceding. Now, please understand what he's doing. He's trying to find a remnant seed. If you want revival to spring up, you've got to have a remnant seed. You don't need the whole city, but you do need a remnant seed in that city. I mean, if I'm planning a garden, and if I don't have sufficient seed to plant, then I need another strategy. So he needed sufficient seed. He's looking for a remnant seed, and it's like, if I can't find a remnant seed, I'll then get out of Dodge and I'll let you destroy the whole city, God. But he was trying, as a leader, he was trying to save the city by finding a remnant of people who could then become the seedbed of revival springing up in that place. It's a strategy. You change your environment. When I say change your environment, make a note of this: to be an agent of change. Be an agent of change. On your job, work on changing the environment. Be an agent of change and a catalyst for change. Be a catalyst for change. A catalyst is something that speeds up a reaction. Be a catalyst for change. Be an agent of change. I love the way that Gandhi said, we must be the change that we wish to see in the world. Be the change that you wish to see in the world. And understand this, that if I'm going to change something, I've got to bring truth into that situation. Because truth brings the conviction necessary for change. Truth brings the conviction necessary for change. You'll never change people unless you can get the truth in them. Truth brings the conviction necessary for change. If people are not confronted with truth, they will not change. And you will never change what you are willing to tolerate. You will never change what you are willing to tolerate. Or let me say it this way: you will never change what you are unwilling to confront. You will never change what you are unwilling to confront. Now, many people will not change until the pain of remaining the same becomes greater than the pain of changing. There's a pain always associated with changing, because you don't like people to mess up your flow, interfering with your swagger. You want to be able to keep things the way that they've been going. So until the pain of remaining the same becomes greater than the pain of changing, then we won't change. Until that pain of remaining the same becomes greater than the pain of changing. And so it's very interesting to see that. In other words, you have to become sick and tired of being sick and tired. And until you get tired of things just staying the way that they are, you won't change. And so I encourage a person, when I say change the environment, in other words, be a thermostat, not a thermometer. A thermometer adjusts to the temperature and reads out what the temperature is. It becomes the temperature of the atmosphere that it's in. But a thermostat sets the atmosphere. So you set the thermostat on 70 in the summertime so that it can cool down. Because if it's 90 degrees outside, you don't want to be 90. So as a thermostat, you set the thermostat. Now, as a thermostat, you notice that you don't have immediate change. You set it first. It's like a goal. And this is what the thing calls for. And then you'll hear the fan and the blowers kick on and things start happening. The same with the heat in the wintertime. You have to be the thermostat and set it, and eventually it will come, the temperature will adjust in the atmosphere to where the thermostat is set. We have to be thermostats in our homes, thermostats on our job, so that we can change the environment. This is what you noticed about Abraham. He was a thermostat, and he tried desperately to be an agent of change. And so he stood before the Lord, and he interceded for Sodom, and he tried desperately to find a remnant seed to serve as a source of revival in that city. And whenever you're trying to change your environment, always begin with prayer. Don't try to do it with your head knowledge, with just trying to conjure up a nice, brilliant strategy. The devil is never intimidated by prayerless strategies. He is never intimidated by prayerless intelligence. So always begin, in terms of changing your environment, begin it with prayer. Begin it with prayer. Then incorporate praise. And then employ prophecy. Prayer, praise, and prophecy all influence and change the environment. But now, can I be totally honest with you? We are not always successful in changing the environment because we can't always find a remnant seed for the revival. Or it may be a situation where we don't have the time to wait it out. And when this is the case, then you have to go to modus operandi number 2. Number 1 is change your environment. Become an agent of change. Here's strategy number 2. Change your environment. Now, when I say it this way, change your environment, I mean leave from the place where you are. Either you change the place or you change the place. Are you listening? You change from the place. So when I say the second one, in terms of change your environment, I mean change the environment, leave the environment where you are. Get out, walk away. You either destroy sin and evil, or sin and evil will eventually destroy you. In other words, you have got to simply know when it's time to leave the party. You can do serious damage when you stay at the party too long. Now let me just tell you, God will put up with foolishness for a while. He will. You got to know when to get out. You got to know. Paul said, when I was a child, I spake as a child, I thought as a child, I understood as a child. But when I became a man, when I matured, I put away childish things. I put them away. And when you grow old, but you don't grow up, you're coming into dangerous territory. So you have to then change the environment. You have to change the environment. And one of the reasons that many people don't change the environment of where they are is because they don't know where they would rather be. To change from where you are, you must decide where you would rather be. But if you don't want to be in Atlanta, where do you want to be? You can't plan the trip if you haven't made a decision as to where you want to go. It's not a good thing. I know sometimes, every now and then, you'll find a person that just says, you know, I just got so frustrated. I was so sick of that. I just loaded up my stuff, just got in the car and started driving. If you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. But to change from where you are, you must decide where you would rather be. Once you make the decision produces power and focus in your life. The moment that you become intentional in terms of where you want to be in life, you begin to set something in motion. So at that point, you will discover that you cannot change people when you want to change them. How many of you all have discovered that? I mean, if you could have changed a person when you wanted to change them, you would have changed them long time ago. But when you live long enough, you'll begin to discover that people don't change when you want them to change. They change when they are ready to change. when they are ready to accept the change. They'll only change when they are receptive to change. And so we have to either use our prayers and our influence to change people, or sometimes we have to change from them. Have you ever wondered why some people just don't change? They just don't change. I mean, they'll be wrong and just won't change. May I tell you some reasons that I've discovered in terms of why people don't change? I mean, I thought about it. I'm like, why won't they change? They know they're not right. I thought about it, and I want to share with you some things that came out of my thinking. Number one, ignorance. Oftentimes, people will not change because they don't realize that there is a better way. They are ignorant of the fact that there is a better way. Sometimes people are still doing stuff an old, slow way, a backward way, a way that takes more time, that is non-productive. And they're still doing it because they are not aware that there's a better way, because this is the way we've always done it. And they're not even aware that there's a better way. And oftentimes they're not even interested that there is another way, because this is the way I was trained to do it. And now many of the ways that we used to do things are obsolete now. This is a different culture, it's a faster world now. But just ignorant, unaware that there is a better way. Ignorance, I think, is number one. Number two, fear. Because all change involves the unknown. All change involves the unknown. People fear the unknown. A third reason that people don't change is laziness. Change takes effort. I mean, it's just, you know, they are complacent and they lack discipline, and change takes effort. And so there are a lot of folks that just don't change because, you know, it takes effort to change. You have to condition yourself. It's a lot of work to change. Number four is rebellion. They know what's right, but they just choose to be defiant. They're controllers. Those are what you call controllers. Oftentimes, rebellion has its roots in distrust. When you find a rebellious person, they've been hurt by someone, and so they don't trust people. And that rebellion is a sign of saying, if I obey you, if I do what you want to do, I'm putting you then in control of my life, and I've been hurt before, and I don't want anybody to control me, so I'm going to be rebellious because I've been hurt. Somebody has betrayed my trust before, and I'm not going to hurt me, so I'm going to do what I want to do, and I'm not going to do what you want me to do. It's born out of a spirit of rebellion. Rebellion, the Bible says, is as the sin of witchcraft, because it's an attempt to control another human being and make them submit to your demands and your way. That's rebellion. Number five is pride. Pride. It'd be just wrong. Pride is the strength of sin. And they just will not admit that they're wrong. May I tell you, I'll tell you, just a few weeks ago, I went and sat with a billionaire, with a B. And one of the things that he said to me, he said, one of the hardest lessons for me to learn. And I so love him and respect his humility, because he said this to me. He said, it took me a long time to learn this in my own marriage and my family, but it's through these simple words: I was wrong. I was wrong. And then secondly, he said, I'm sorry. He said, it took me a long time. This is a billionaire saying that I learned this to say I was wrong. You got to strip yourself of pride to say I was wrong. The billionaire has a wonderful quality family, and he's learned to say, I was wrong. And not only that, he taught it to his children. He's an extremely beneficent man. They were building a hospital up north in Michigan, and they built a wing of hospital. I think it was $100 million. He put down $50 million, turned to his 4 children. He said, can you all help me? Each one of them said, Dad, we'll help you. They gave $12.5 million apiece. That was the other $50 million. He taught his children to say, I was wrong, I'm sorry. And so when Daddy learned this lesson years ago, one of his sons, you know, Daddy was such a stickler, he set the law down. He says, you don't do that. You don't play with me. Don't play me. And his son went out, and he had a midnight curfew. And he came home at 2 o'clock in the morning. Daddy was sitting there in a chair. He bought a chair and sat it right in front of the front door. And he was sitting there waiting on his son. And his son came with fear and trembling, opened that door, And he wasn't expecting to see his daddy sitting there in a chair. Daddy didn't say a word to him. His son opened the door. And before his son did anything else, he said, "Dad, I was wrong and I'm sorry." The dad said, "What in the world are you doing?" He said, "I just got up and went to bed." He said, "I didn't say a word." You will be surprised at how much healing can come to relationships if people would learn to say, "I was wrong and I'm sorry." Don't try to explain it. Don't rationalize it away. Don't mess it up. Don't say you had faults too. Just I was wrong and I am sorry. But you got to be stripped of pride to do that. But it restores relationship. A billionaire taught me that. I was wrong and I'm sorry. Two simple statements, but they so open and heal relationships. Here's a sixth reason that people don't change: procrastination. They'll do it later. I'm having a good time, you done everything you wanted to do. I'll change later. Procrastination, another reason that people don't change. Number 7, another reason that people don't change is that it goes against their belief system. It goes against their belief system. I'll give you a good case in point. I was in a restaurant, where they had peanuts on the table, and you open the peanuts up, and they want you to just throw the hull and everything down on the floor. Well, that goes against my belief system. I wasn't trained to just be sloppy and nasty like that. That went against my belief system. And so I was eating peanuts, and I was just stacking them neatly on the table. That just went against my home training. I couldn't do that. I just couldn't do that. And I had a nice big pile of my peanuts neatly stacked on the corner of the table. And a waitress came by, and she's just but it went against I couldn't do it because it went against my belief system. I'm like, somebody's going to have to clean that up. I'm trying to help a brother out. I'm trying to help a sister out, whoever had to clean up. I understand. I've had to sweep floors before. I understand. I'm trying to be considerate. That goes against my belief system. I'm trained to clean up, not to mess up, so I couldn't get into that. And after they did that, I ate some more, but I still put them here. When I still go there, I still just can't go in there and just throw stuff on the floor. That goes against my home training. I'm like, I don't do this at home. And so it goes against, so if it goes against the person's belief system, they won't be able to change. Number 8, they're unable to recognize the need for change. In other words, they live with the philosophy that if it ain't broke, don't fix it. They're unable to recognize the need for change. And then 9, another reason that people don't change is that they have neither purpose nor goals in their life. If that's not a goal of something that you're trying to work to be, to work to become, why change? Change for what? And so sometimes when you're ready for greatness, you have to leave the environment of mediocrity, of negativity, of criticism, of abuse, of discouragement, of people putting you down. And so when the angel told Lot to get out of Sodom, he was told to escape to the mountains. Verse 17, he told him, escape to the mountain. But the mountains is a place of refuge. It's also a place of perspective. You get up on a mountain, you can have perspective, you can see. And the mountain is also a place of inspiration. You draw inspiration from the mountains. And so Lot went to a Canaanite city called Zoar. The city name of Zoar actually means little. He went to a little place where he could feel comfortable and secure. But the problem was he couldn't grow in the little place. The environment was not conducive for growth. And so after a while, he became afraid to stay in the little place of Zoar. And he eventually had to go and dwell in the mountains in a cave where he was originally told to go in the beginning. In verse 30, you'll see that he had to make the decision to go to Zoar because he was afraid to continue to stay in the little place. Sometimes your environment can hinder you from becoming all that you need to be. And so when faced with a decision, you, number one, change the environment by becoming an agent of change and finding a remnant. Or number two, you change your environment again in that you leave the place where you are, you move on. And number three, the third option is to be changed by the environment, to conform, to assimilate. Because the principle is that you become what you behold. But remember the admonition that we have in Scripture in Romans 12:2. Be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. Don't be conformed. The only time that you want to be conformed is when you are in a right atmosphere of people that challenge you to grow, when you're around righteous people, when you're around praying people, when you're around people that have integrity. Then you want to be able to become conformed into that image. When you're in right company, you want to be around individuals. You want to be conformed into what your mentors are. You want to be conformed. So that's the only time that you use the principle of conformity, is when you want to become something that others are already around you. And so when the Bible mentions in Isaiah chapter 59 and verse 19, it says that when the enemies shall come in like a flood, the Lord will lift up a standard against them. Just remember, when a flood comes in, I think you have three options with a flood. Change the environment. When I say that, I mean get the water out. Or number two, change the environment. In other words, get out of the water. And number three, be changed by the environment. Learn to swim in it. Decisions, decisions, decisions. What do you need to cut off in your life so that you can move forward and that your life can be preserved, and that the stuff that you've been dealing with does not ultimately end up destroying you? Because there's only so long that you can go without being found out.
Thank you for watching Power for Living with Bishop Dale C. Bronner. Until next time, God bless you.